Hello, welcome back. Next webinar, next free webinar, CFA Level 1. I can see Aliena is there. Aliena, could you please tell us where are you from, if I may ask you? I just need to open this second window for you so that you could see what you should see. And this is this. And here, you're free to write into the chat. So the chat is used. I see, I see. Cool, cool, cool. Cool. Um, I did something wrong, Aliena. I thought the preceding webinar was fixed income, but I wrote that this one is fixed income. So if you insist, I mean, I could do derivatives now because I did fixed income the webinar before, but I could just as well do fixed income now again. So you're free to choose. You're free to choose because you're the only one appearing here. There were several other persons did that did want to participate here, but you're the only one appearing now, so you're free to choose. If you choose, otherwise I will do derivatives. But as you like. Mm. Yes, I just mixed it up. I thought it's fixed income first and derivatives second, but it should have been the other way around. So it should have been first derivatives and then second fixed income. But I would, if you don't mind, do derivatives now. But if you want it the other way around, I would. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it this way. You can watch fixed income if and when the video is there, and it shouldn't take too much time to occur. So now let's just do derivatives. Cool. Derivatives. Derivatives. That's a cool thing. So are you going to take your CFA Level 1 exam in December 2020, or are you going to participate later on in February or June next year? Yes. That's the second question now. Now, we're talking about two different types of options. An option gives us the right, not the obligation, but the right to do something. And there's call options and there's put options. With call options, you have the right, not the obligation, to buy a certain underlying in the future at a price agreed upon now. Right? That's very important. The price is agreed on now. So let's take a look at this. For example, if we agree there is this derivatives. Consider a call option selling for $5 in which the exercise price is $90 and the price of the underlying is 88. The price of the underlying is 88. If the price of the underlying expiration is 93, the value at expiration for a call buyer is equal to. Now, the call buyer buys the right, not the obligation. So with futures, with swaps, there is an obligation, but with options, there's not an obligation. There is the right to do something. So the buyer of this right, the buyer of this call option, has the right to exercise his option, his or her option, and he bought $5 to get this right. He paid $5 to get the right, and the exercise at which he can buy the certain underlying, at which he can buy the share in the future, is set to be 19. So totally independent of the price that's going to occur in the future, if the price is going to be 93, no matter. The price he is able to pay and he is allowed to pay is 90 only. And yes, so let's just try to have a certain understanding of this option. Say we're looking at this call option and the exercise price X is equal to 90, and the price we paid for this option was set to be 5, wasn't it? 93. The price of the underlying is 93, and the exercise price is 90. So cool. And the price of the underlying is 88. Blah blah blah. So now the value, the value at expiration for a call buyer. We have a certain formula. And it is this: C index T, capital T, because we're looking at time, capital T, is said to be the larger of the two following values, 0 or ST minus X. So ST is said to be the price of the underlying, like S denotes share, of course, and T is the time we're looking at, the point in time we're looking at, said to be capital T, minus X, and this is the maximum of the two values, 0 and 93 minus 90, isn't it? So the exercise price, he or she, the call buyer, he or she has the right to buy the certain underlying at a price of 90. And provided that the price at expiration is actually 93, not 90, then we have the following. It's the maximum of the two numbers, 0 and 3, which happens to be 3, of course. Right? Because why? Why is this true? If the price is 90, if the price is 93, you would do the following. You buy the share instantaneously at a price of 90 because you have the right to do so. You have the right to do so and to buy the share, the underlying, at 90. But 1 minute later, you can sell the share for 93, leading to a gain, leading to a valued expiration of $3, and that's the understanding of value of this value at expiration. So if we denote this X to be 90, this is X, and and here this shall be 93, then we have the valued expiration to be 3. What would be the valued expiration at 96? The same would occur. We would exercise this right. We would buy the share at a price of 90, and we'd sell it immediately afterwards at 96, leading to a gain, a so-called gain of 6, which is not really a gain because, first of all, we need to subtract the price we paid before to get this right. But nevertheless, if we don't look at it first, it is a gain at first sight. At first sight, it is a gain. So this means that this goes up linearly, doesn't it? This goes up linearly. What would happen if the price was 90? If the price was 90 only, what would happen then? If we don't look at the price we paid before, we feel indifferent about it. We feel indifferent because, there's no difference. There is no difference in exercising and in not exercising this right that we just bought. So therefore, this valued expiration would be 90. And the valued expiration, if it was inferior to 90, say it was 40, if the actual price at expiration of the underlying of the share was 40, we wouldn't exercise it, because meaning we would exercise it at 90, and we can only buy it at 90, would mean that we wouldn't buy it at 40, and we would have the right to buy it at 40, because everybody has the right to buy it at 40 if the price was 40. So therefore, this curve would be this. The curve would be this, and this is the understanding of the value at expiration, CT equal to this. So this was question number 1, and question number 1 is 3 or 0 or 2, and the answer is A, because here it's given to be 3. If there's any question, don't hesitate to just ask the question. Consider the call option, and I think it's the same call option, selling for $5, in which the exercise price is 90 and the price of the underlying is 88 if the price of the underlying at expiration is 93. The call buyer's profit. We don't look at the value at expiration any longer, but we keep in mind and we look at the fact that actually he or she paid $5 to get the right, and we don't look at the value at expiration any longer. We look at the profit. Now, the profit is different because there is a difference, and the answer is clear, of course. Question number 2. The profit is, of course, the valued expiration at time t minus the price we paid for having this right. So that's the second formula. This was the first, and this is the second formula. So actually, there's a valued expiration. There's a valued expiration of 3, as we just said, but we paid 5. So all in all, it's no good. All in all, it's no good because we incur a loss. There's still a loss that we would possibly incur being at -2 or being 2. A loss is always agreed to be negative. So there is a profit of -2 or there's a loss of 2. And so the right answer of question number 2 is, of course, number B. That's the call buyer's profit. So, let's go further. Consider a call option selling for $5. It seems to be the same question again, in which the exercise price is 90 and the price of the underlying is 88. If the price is 93, the value expiration for a call seller. We don't look at the call buyer any longer because we looked at the call buyer with the first 2 questions. We looked at his valued expiration and we looked at his profit, but now we want to look at the call seller. And of course, it's different. It's different from the perspective we're looking at. The call buyer is the one and only person that has a right to call, has to do as the call buyer wanted. So the call seller doesn't have the right. The call seller has to wait for what the call buyer will do. Question number 3. If the price at expiration is said to be 93, what would the call buyer do? We're looking at the call seller, but the call seller has to look at what the call buyer does. And what would the call buyer do? What would the call buyer do? Question number 3. So again, maybe let's just draw the situation. And the situation is this. Let's do it a bit different. So here we have the x-axis, or the time axis. So this is time, and this is the share price. Share price. This is the share price, and this is profit or loss. And the curves, when looking at the call buyer, there was this. And if it's $95, so giving a price of $95, the call buyer wouldn't incur a loss any longer, because 95, he would have the right to buy it for 90. He would sell it immediately afterwards, say, for example, at 95, given the situation here, and he would incur a gain of 5, first of all, a valued expiration of 5 minus the price he paid for it, minus the price he paid for having this right. So 5 minus 5 equals 0. So this is his profile. This is the profile of the call buyer. This is the call buyer's profile. Now the call seller has a different profile. Here we have -5. Here we have positive +5. And the answer is this. The called seller sees the following. If the called buyer doesn't do anything, like going up to a price of 90, the called buyer wouldn't do anything because like having an actual price at expiration of say 40 or 50 or 60, the called buyer wouldn't do anything because he has the right to buy something at 90, which is even higher than 50 or 40 or 60. So the called buyer wouldn't do anything, but the called seller sold the right for a price of 5. So once the called buyer doesn't do anything, the called seller just has the profit of 5. Now, starting at 90, the called buyer does something, and the called buyer exercises his option. He will exercise his option, meaning that the other one, the called seller, has to deliver the share. The called seller has to deliver the share. And therefore, if it is, for example, 100, if it is 100, then he would have to sell the share for 90 because he's obliged to do so by this contract of the call option. He would sell it at 90. He would have to buy it at 100 because, say, the price is 100. And let's just say first he doesn't have the share. So he would have to buy the share at 100. He would have to sell it at 90, meaning there's a first loss of 10, plus the $5 he just got because he sold the share. He sold the call option. Meaning the profile is just mirrored. The profile is just mirrored from the buyer to the seller, and it is mirrored the following way, this way. So the red one, this is the called seller's profile, drawn in red, and drawn in blue, it's the called buyer's profile. So we have the called seller and the called buyer, and their two profiles are just mirrored around the x-axis or mirrored around the share price axis. We don't call it x-axis any longer because this was junior high school or something. This was high school. But now, university level, it's important to not to call it x or y axis, but to call it share price axis because there's the share price, the actual one, and to call the other axis here, for example, the profit axis. So what I was going to say, what I was trying to convey with this question number 3, the valued expiration for a called seller is equal to, and what is the answer? What is the answer, Aliana? If you're asked to give us the answer, what would you say? A or B or C? The answer is C, is A, ABC, -3, 0, or +3. And since it is mirrored and the call buyer had a profit of +3, the call seller has a loss of 3. The formula is given by, and oh yeah, why not write it down in red? Why not write it down in red? Because it's -CT, so lowercase c because we're dealing with a call option, and uppercase T because we're looking at uppercase pointed time T. It is negative the maximum of two values, 0 and ST, the actual share price, minus the exercise price. And this is given by negative the maximum of the two values 0 and 93 minus 90 equal to minus negative the maximum of the two values 0 and 3, which is -3. So as I just said, because like he would sell the share at a price of 90, he would have to himself buy the share first of all at a price of 93, meaning he loses $3. He loses $3, and we don't look at the profit here in this question because the question was about the profit was about which value? The valued expiration. Yes. The question was about the valued expiration, not about the profit. So we don't look at the fact that he got $5 at first hand because he sold the right. But since we don't look at this, there is a loss. There is a loss. And I think in the next one, we will look at it. Question number 4. If the price of the underlying expiration is the called seller's profit. Yes, here we look at the profit, not at the valued expiration any longer, meaning that -3 plus 5, because he actually got $5, means that the answer A is correct because there's a profit of 2, isn't it? There is a profit of 2 for the called seller. Question number 4. Pi, the profit, pi like profit, is equal to negative CT plus C sub 0, -3 plus 5 equal to positive 2. There's a profit actually, and if it goes down, or if the price goes up further, as we can see here, if the price goes up further, like starting at 95, he loses. Actually, he loses money, even if we look at the fact that he got $5 first of all. So here it is 93, and the profit is equal to 2, looking at the call seller. Yes, looking at the call seller. So yes, the answer is $2, right? Is this the first time you're going to take this CFA level 1 exam, Alina? First time or second time? How familiar are you with? I see. Great. First time and last time, because you're going to pass this exam. I'm sure of this. First time. What was I going to say? Payout and profit from the buyer's perspective. Now I think we're going to take the same look from the seller's perspective. Question number 5, consider a put option. Oh yes, the put option. Now, the first 4 questions dealt with the call option, and of course, the last 4 will deal with the put option, and it's going to be the same put option. First of all, we're going to look at the put buyer, and we try to compute his valued expiration and his profit. And then there's the put seller we're going to look at, and his or her valued expiration and profit. Cool. So consider a put option selling for $6 in which the exercise price is 70. So we have the right, not the obligation, to sell a certain underlying in the future at expiration, looking at a European type option. We have the right, not the obligation, to sell a certain underlying, say a share, at $70, and this share price shall be $74. Please note that this price was only in order to give you some number that's irrelevant, that is totally irrelevant, and is not of use for you at all. So yeah. Now, so we look at 70 and we look at 74, and we try to answer the question, first of all, is it a good thing to do or is it not a good thing to do? From the buyer's perspective, the payoff from the buyer's perspective of a put option. Now, let's change the color first of all, and we're going to look at put options. So we're looking at a put option giving us the right to sell a certain underlying, sell a certain share at a price of 90, because the price is agreed on now and is valid in the future. Now, this is it. This is the share price axis, not the x-axis, share price. And this axis shall be profit or loss, or profit or loss. Now, The payoff and the profit, which is not the same. Payoff doesn't pay attention to the fact that we paid something for having the right, but the profit does. So what's the difference? There is 0 and there's -6. So looking at the payoff first, and the exercise price is set to be 70, right? Yeah, the exercise price is 70. So for example, if the price is 50, what would the put buyer do? The put buyer, because we're looking at the buyer first, the buyer's perspective. What would you say, Aljana? Would he exercise the price? Would he exercise the put option, or would he not? Two things. And since you're the only one attending this webinar, the bad thing about it is you always have to answer every question. That's the bad thing about it, being the only one. But I think next week it's going to be different. You're going to be there with some others. There was some guy from Switzerland or Italy. He wanted to attend, but he's not there. So next week there are going to be some more people. The question was, will he or she exercise the option, the put option, given the fact that there is an exercise price of 70 and an actual share price of, say, 50? And the answer, he would have the right to sell a certain share at 70. So yes. So yes, the answer, of course, is yes. He would buy the share at 50. He would buy the share at 50. He would sell it immediately afterwards at a price of 70, meaning there is a payoff of $20. There's a payoff of $20, not a profit, but a payoff. So the payoff would be 20. The payoff would be 20. And so on and so on. If we go down, if the price moves down, there's more and more opportunity, there's more and more incentive to actually buy the share and to sell it immediately afterwards at 70. So meaning that the payoff is this. That's the payoff. Bam. His or her payoff. And the profit includes the fact that he didn't get this right for free. He had to pay. How much did he have to pay for it? He had to pay $6. He had to pay $6 to get the right. So actually, we have to shift the entire curve down by $6. And this means that at 70, this is the profit curve. This is the profit curve. Bam. Profit of the buyer of a put option. The buyer of a put option has this profit curve, and the share curve, the payoff curve and the profit curve are just derived from each other. We can change from the one to the other by just adding or subtracting $6. That's the difference between the two of them. So actually, in order to answer, we first had to understand the meaning of those options. Now, in order to answer, question number 5, the valued expiration for a put buyer is equal to 0 or -4 or +4. What is your answer? What is your answer to this question? Question number 5. Dum 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 dum. The valid expiration for a put buyer is equal to the profit, blah blah blah. So it's A. It's 0. Yes. Yeah, sure. Because he wouldn't exercise it. He wouldn't exercise this option, as we can compute. So this is question number 5. And P, lowercase p, indicating put option, being considered at the point in time capital T. It's the maximum of the two values 0 and x minus st. So the exercise price minus the share price at time t, being the maximum of the two values 0 and 70 minus 74, being equal to the maximum of 0 and negative 4. And this, I think, the maximum of those two values is, of course, 0, because here it wouldn't be exercised. So it's 74. At a price of 74, it wouldn't be the case that he'd go down, he'd go there to the share market and buy this share at 74 and sell it immediately afterwards at 70, because this would mean there would be a loss of $4. So in order to avoid this loss, because we don't want to incur losses in life, in order to avoid this loss, we would not exercise the option. So the option wouldn't be exercised. Bam. This is the first thing we need to understand. So here it would be 74. So at 74, there would be a payoff of 0 and a profit of negative 6. So of course the profit is given by PT, P again denoting put, minus P0. So the option price is denoted by P0 because it was paid at time 0. PT minus P0 is equal to 0 minus 6, and 0 minus 6 is of course negative 6. So the profit, question number 6, Question number 6, 0, 4, or negative 6 is answer C. Answer C is the right one because negative 6 is part of answer C only. Cool thing. Now, so as you can see here, we look at call options first from each and every single perspective, and there's two things to consider from every perspective. So the buyer has the payoff and the buyer has the profit, and the seller has payoff and profit. So if there are two types of options, if there are two types of perspectives, and if there are two types of lines that we can look at, it's given to be 2 times 2 times 2 equal to 2 to the power of 3 equal to 8 possibilities that we have to deal with. That's why I created 8 questions for this webinar. 8 questions for this webinar. So it's question number 7, dealing with the same option, of course, but dealing with the seller, the put seller. There's not only a put buyer, there's a put seller, and the put seller, of course, also have two things to look at: his payoff and his profit. And the seller, again, the seller is quite a passive person. He's not actively looking at, he's not actively doing something, he's passively waiting. Passively waiting is the same thing, but no. Anyway, he's passively waiting for what the buyer does. The buyer is the one person that does something, and the seller just waits and looks. And by doing so, in question number 7, if the share price is equal to 74, the valid expiration for the put seller is equal to what? What is the right answer to your mind? Question number 9 is not correct, and 8 isn't correct either. It is 5 and 6, isn't it? It is 5 and 6. 5 and 6. And now it's question number 7. So now, question number seven, dealing with the put seller. The put seller has this formula, negative PT. So we look at his or her payoff first of all. It's the negative of the maximum value of 0 and x minus st equal to negative maximum of 0 and 70 minus 74, which is equal to the maximum value of 0 and negative 4 equal to negative 0, which is in turn 0. So it's a long story. To cut a long story short, if the put buyer doesn't do anything, and he doesn't do anything at 74 because it's no good for him. It wouldn't be any good for the put buyer. For the put buyer, it wouldn't be any good to exercise his option. So he doesn't exercise his option, and the put buyer, as well as the put seller, incurs a payoff of 0. But the profit is different. The profit is different, and if we look at the blue one is the perspective of the buyer, and looking at the seller now, and let's just do it in red. Let's just try to paint the seller in red. The seller is red, so fixed income, yeah. I call it fixed income, but it is derivatives. As we saw, fixed income ban. What was I trying to say? I was trying to say that, yes, in order to change perspective, trying to paint the seller in red actually means that the following will occur. Exactly. The following will occur once the put buyer doesn't do anything and occurs a loss of $6. The put seller does incur a profit of $6. So again, it's mirrored. It's totally mirrored. The profit lines are mirrored. The profit lines are mirrored, and they are, in fact, these lines. This is the seller's profit. And it goes down here. It goes down here. Bam. So the profit lines are just mirrored, and your answer was what? To the seventh question, consider the same option as before. The valid expiration for put seller is of course 0. Yes, true. And the profit is equal to, last question, if it is 74, it is equal to 6. Yes. So number C would be the right answer because it would be equal to 6. There was something I wanted to add, yes, which is not a question here, but I ask the question now. At what height does this curve happen to intersect with this axis? The point of intersection between the payoff curve and the profit axis is at which price? Is at which dollar value? So let's try to ask for it differently. If there is a share price of 0, if I get it for free, if I get a share for free, means 0, and looking at a put option, I would get the share for free. I would have the right to sell the share at a price of 70 because the exercise price is 70. What I would immediately do afterwards, so I would get this share for free. I would sell it immediately afterwards for 70. need to subtract the profit, need to subtract the price that we got from selling, that from buying, that the buyer got from buying this option. So 70, first of all, payoff of 70 minus $6 because we first have to get this right. And 70 minus 6 is equal to 64 exactly. So this is 64 and this is negative 64, isn't it? Cool. That's it. That's it for now. Do you have any questions concerning the derivatives? I will try to repeat these webinars. Fixed income, yes. I will try to repeat these webinars every Wednesday. And what was I going to say? And I will do some webinars that won't be free webinars, but that will be very long webinars, much longer webinars than here in November and in October, and actually in September, October, November. There's going to be more webinars and more webinars dealing with every single one of the 10 subjects: alternative investments, fixed income, equity, quantitative methods, and so on and so on. There's 10 of them that are important, starting from equity and ending with alternative investments. Cool. So I hope to see you again next time. Actually, I've got the same in German. So there's a German webinar tomorrow at, I don't know, 6? No, at 5. At 5 o'clock, dealing with what? Dealing with financial reporting and analysis. Exactly. Reading 22, understanding balance sheets and financial reporting and analysis. So there's a German webinar and there's 2 English webinars. The German one's always on Thursday and the English ones on Wednesday. That's the difference. Cool. Thank you for joining. Oh, we have a third person. And that's, of course, Jacobo. Jacobo, I did something wrong with the first one. The order would be, first of all, fixed income and then derivatives, but I first said the order would be the other way around. So, small mistake. This second webinar actually was about derivatives, and the first one was about fixed income. But you'll be able to watch the videos afterwards. And so although we wanted to do fixed income here at 7, we actually did do derivatives, right? Yeah, we actually did do derivatives. So anyway, no matter what the actual order was, Jacobo, you'll be able to see on the videos, you'll be able to watch this thing again. Cool. And I hope to see you again, Jacobo, next week. I still didn't think about what to do next week, but I think it's going to be something really important. We'll see. If you have any recommendations for what I should do, please don't hesitate to contact me on Facebook or via email or however. And Jacobo, you were living in Switzerland, Geneva, right? Or was it Zurich? Or which city was it? Baden. I see. Cool. Close to Zurich. Yes. As I said before, Jacobo, I have some webinars in German, and the German ones are taking place on Thursday, and the English ones are taking place on Wednesday. And tomorrow there is a German one for financial reporting and analysis, dealing with reading 22, understanding balance sheets, and it's going to be in German. But now on Wednesday, they are in English. Cool. There won't be any in Italian. There won't be any in Spanish. Maybe I can understand them if somebody else held them in Spanish, but in Italian, I wouldn't be able to do either way. Let's have some in Spanish. Good idea. Cool. Then see you the latest next week. And see you when talking about Chartered Financial Analyst Level 1. Thanks for joining today.